This is going to be really fun because we're going to now probe and explore some of the really interesting and diverse clientele of CEO Warrior. And our first lucky interviewee, yeah,
Sure.
is Steve Moon from Manitoba. And he's a very unique service entrepreneur. We just shared offline some of the background, but I will allow him to share it again with you because it'll give you a perspective on something fascinating, but also something very, very, very undervalued in the concept of building and growing and acquiring businesses. Let's start out by sharing your first profession. What are you by training?
By training, I'm a CPA. So I trained with KPMG Chartered Accountants, one of at the
Sure.
time it was Big Five. I think there's only three left now.
The big three.
Big three, yeah. So I did, like most students start out as an audit person, did that for 5 years. And then
Which I think everybody should do that because you get such a context of diverse experience. It's unbelievable, isn't
I've
it?
seen anything from really small companies to really large companies. And actually one story I'd like to share about that is my parents were entrepreneurs. They were in a totally different business, tool and die welding.
Okay.
My dad told me to go to university,
Okay.
so which is interesting from an entrepreneur. So I went to university, and I saw he was part of the early 80s when the economy wasn't very good. He almost lost the business.
Okay.
And I saw how hard he worked. And one of the things I noted in university, I'm like, I want to work for a big company. That's what I want to do, safety, all that stuff. So when I went to KPMG, I remember one winter I was doing tax returns, and there was some people making some amazing amounts of money. And I always wanted to know what they did. They were all business owners.
Okay.
And that's not necessarily why I got involved in being an entrepreneur, but it certainly set the stage like, maybe I do want to look at other options.
Yes.
So yeah.
That's great. So, okay, so let's take you on your journey. And as we're going on that journey, let's not detour, but let's get on the superhighway called CEO Warrior and see how that impacted you. And let's just start. So you started out as an accountant. You realized that entrepreneurs made money and that they also had vehicles that worked for them, probably because you were basically, face down, looking at numbers all
Yep.
day long and
Yep.
traveling, but you didn't have any leverage. I mean, KPMG, they had a great leverage because they're billing you out at 8 times whatever they're paying you, but you didn't have any leverage.
No, I worked as I worked as a slave. I worked so much as a student there. I mean, I basically made $20,000 a year and worked 80 hours a week. It was a great gig for them.
Yeah, what are they billing you at, probably?
Oh, a lot more than a lot more than 20 grand a year.
Okay, so you already have a double context. So now something happens in your accounting career, some event that has you decide, hey, I want to get into the service business.
Yep.
And then you either had an opportunity present yourself or you had a definition of the kind of businesses, profile or factors or something that you wanted. What happened?
Well, I actually went from accounting to banking. So that was kind of like my middle career, we'll call it.
Okay, and what'd you learn there?
Well, the one thing I learned there is how to look at businesses critically, not just from a numbers, but overall, what made them tick. And I also learned how to put deals together to buy and sell businesses and loan money to do it.
Now, if I may ask for a distilled disservice, give me a one paragraph on each of those. How do you put deals together? What makes businesses tick? And when you're loaning money, what's the criteria that you need to look at?
So how do you put deals together? Well, it was one of those ones where a lot of people think you cannot actually buy a business. They'd never be able to do it. So it was amazing to see how somebody with maybe not a lot of equity, they think they have to have a ton of equity
Yes.
to do it.
Yes.
So I was a 31-year-old kid that basically had no money, but I just found ways to leverage all my personal assets, which wasn't very much at the time. And it became a risk tolerance thing. So how much risk was I willing to take? And there's a lot of people that would never have done what I did.
Just curiously, and I don't want to get too esoteric, did you do bank financing or owner financing or a combination?
I put some money in, which was all personally borrowed.
Okay.
And my parents were original partners. They put the same amount of money, so we were
Okay.
50-50 at the time.
Okay.
But they didn't have a lot of money. They were successful, but
Okay.
not a lot. And then the rest was bank financed.
Okay.
And it wasn't your standard chartered bank. It was an institution that maybe charged a little bit more interest,
But they specialized in that.
but they specialized in doing that type of deal. Yeah.
And was it a short or long-term type of a financial arrangement?
Part of it was short and part of it was long. So the shorter part was a bit steeper, a little higher interest,
all right.
and then the building, the hard asset stuff was the 15 to 20 year type timeline.
Okay, so now you end up with an enterprise. What kind?
It was a portable toilet and a septic truck.
You know, I've helped companies in that field, and you can make jokes about it. which
I've
we
heard them
can,
all.
but they are very, they're profitable based on sustainability. If you get enough of them located where they stay, it's a very good business.
Correct. And the one thing I will say about not so much the portable toilets, but portable toilets is a density thing. So
Yes.
the more you have in a small area, because someone will say, well, what's your cost to service one?
And
It varies to how
yeah.
close the next one is.
Right, that's exactly right. But incrementally, if you can have 10, you know, in a one block area, that's great.
Well, the cost is, it can be 1/10 of what it would be to do
People don't
another
understand
one.
that.
Yeah.
And those factors change your profit picture tremendously. What about the other side?
So the septic business is one of the few businesses I would almost call recession proof. And that's one of the things I really liked. It's consistency of earnings. And, you know, as long as you keep the customers even relatively happy,
Yes.
it's consistent, and people always have to go to the bathroom. They
Yeah, sure.
they always need
No,
that
it's wonderful.
service.
Now, just curiously, and this is going to show my ignorance, I've always had sewer-based
Yep.
residences. So is it normally once or twice blank that you have to clean it, or?
Well, you know, if it's a residential service, then it's usually, depending on the number of people you have in your house, it's probably once a year. I know in the U.S. they do it a little bit less than Canada. It's definitely once a year. Could be twice a year. Yeah.
And is it a service type business where they just pay monthly, or they just pay each
Nope,
time you
they
come
just
out?
pay each time we go out there. Yeah.
Okay, but you have basically an annuity for life unless you screw it up.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So you got in that, and at acquisition point, it was doing X,
Yep.
and you told me that you've grown the aggregate business something like 6 times over.
6 times. Yep.
So something profound happened between 1X and 6X. What was it?
Probably the first 3 years we did not grow very much, and I think the biggest thing that I realized is I was trying to do everything myself. I was the only manager. I was involved in the day-to-day operations. I worked 7 days a week, and I came from a banking
And were you
career.
having fun?
It was pretty good, but you grow pretty tired, right?
Yes.
And so probably the biggest thing that changed my business is I bought a small company.
Yes.
And it was a fella who was 55 years old, didn't want to drive a truck anymore. I bought his truck and some toilets, and after I said, "Do you want to stay on, work part-time?" And he originally said no, and then he phoned me up 3 weeks later and said he was bored and he'd like to come on, so he worked part-time. Well, it ended up being he worked for me for 10 years, was my director of operations, and he just retired. I think he's 68 years old.
Okay.
And that gave me the ability to work on the business, not in it. He did the in the business part, I did the on the business part.
And you hear that a lot, and I know Michael Gerber, who is renowned for that from the E-Myth,
Yeah.
but most people don't really grasp what it truly means. Why don't you explain what working on the business really entails? Because I think clarity and some concreteness will help people understand what's lacking in most of their mindsets and in their style.
I would say the biggest thing for me was looking for opportunities.
For example,
One of the opportunities that we got into was, you always ask we never asked what our customers wanted. Well, one of the things they wanted, in Canada it gets cold in the winter, they wanted heated toilets.
okay,
So we ended up coming in contact with a company that happened to build a similar product, and they needed somebody to market them in our area. So I started out with one of these ones where I bought a couple, say, it'll be a little extra income and kind of a new opportunity. Well, within 2, 3 years, I had 40 units. I was then selling them. I ended up building them, and we were
Now,
doing $1 million a year in this.
Were these applied to the portable ones, or were you selling?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they were portable
So
units.
they'd be premium portable.
Yes, premium. We absolutely have various levels. You have the plain plastic toilet. There's kind of a middle premium, which is heated, and
You
it's
got the
kind
ones
of
with the water running.
yeah,
out of it.
yeah. And then we have the trailers that have like
Yes.
granite
Yeah, sure,
countertops,
sure,
like
yes.
the VI. We call them VIP.
Yes.
So
Oh,
comfortably.
interesting. So you got into heated toilets,
Yep.
and that became big.
It became ended up I think the third year we did $1 million in revenue in that.
That's amazing.
So just one of those things that if I had been working in the business, I would have just ignored it because I wouldn't have time. So I had the ability to actually run with it, try it. It took off like crazy, and I just determined what the market wanted.
I think one of the big gaps that, and there's a difference between an entrepreneur and a proprietor, and I think that a true entrepreneur allows himself or herself reflective thinking time.
Yeah.
Because you got to be able to think, what's going on here? Where are we headed? Where did we come? If we continue on the path, where's it going to take us? Is that the path we want? Is that the highest and best option? Is there anything else we're missing? Is there anything else we're overlooking? I mean, and I think you can't do that trying to do it all yourself. You have no time.
I still don't do that enough. It's funny. You need to sit back and we'll call it strategically look at your company.
Good.
And one of the things I like about coming here is it allows you to step away from the day-to-day operations, because if I'm in my office, there's always different things, distractions, whatever.
Even if you're trying to think.
If you're trying to think, yeah. So if you come here, it sort of takes you right out of the mold and allows you to critically think about it, learn strategic plans.
Great.
And
you just passed the ball to me to take you now into the realm of CEO Warriors. So everyone watching has a context, at least by now, of at least macro what CE Warrior is. They've met some of the players on the team and the founders, and they've gotten a context of what has driven them to what they're creating. Let's talk about it from a client member experience. So at some point in time, somebody or some way you got introduced to them and something happened and you had an experience and it was compelling enough that you decided to associate with them.
100%. I saw Mike speak at it's called the Wet Show, which is it's a massive show for plumbing, portable toilet, vacuum truck, and it was in Indianapolis. And I took a couple staff members down, and I saw Mike in the morning, and I was blown away because most of the speakers you go see at those things are usually pretty boring, to be honest. Mike is he's the opposite of boring.
Yes, he
so
is.
he blew me away, is all I can say.
He's also got a great style of delivery, which is
entertaining.
yes.
I don't know.
And you can't predict it. It's very great. And so, but he blew you away because he represented what?
He talked about a lot of the real world challenges that I think we face as a business owner.
But don't always embrace acknowledge.
It spoke to me, and I just said I have to see more. And I actually got my staff to come in the afternoon and watch him, and just to see what they thought. They thought he was a little bit crazy, but they are thinking at it from not an ownership side, more of an employee side, right? So, I basically looked them up and contacted the company, and I've been a member for, I think it's been 3 years, just about for the day.
Okay, so now my job is to try to animate and translate what being a member means in terms of support, inspiration, guidance, ideology, ideation, sense of motivation, clarity, aspiration. So help me. So you became a member 3 years ago.
Yep.
So at that point, if you can remember back, what were the most important elements that you grasped in your first year of membership that perhaps either reinforced, added, challenged, exposed whatever, things that made a difference, and what did you do with them? And if you don't mind, what did it end up doing for you?
Wow, that's a lot.
I like complex questions. You don't have to answer it all. Do the best you can.
No, I think the one thing I'll say, when I came to CEO Warrior, I was looking for something else. I was part of a different sort of peer advisory board scenario, and it was pretty good, but it was the sort of the same thing, and there was not a lot of action. And I think I was kind of growing tired of my business. I wasn't even enjoying it that much.
Okay.
We'd done great, financially I was doing very good, but I was sort of at that point where I was stuck.
Okay.
And I think CEO Warrior, when I came to the first SBE event, it just opened my eyes to more than just the business side of it. Because I laugh now when I come here, where people say, I want marketing information, I want this, and really what they need is they need to fix themselves. And I needed to fix myself. I was broken's maybe not the right word, but I was certainly in a place where it wasn't a super positive place, and it wasn't because we were doing bad financially or anything like that. Just I needed something to take me to that next level.
And can you try to summarize what the process or the mechanisms or just the message that they provide does to help get you to fix yourself?
Well, I think they get you to critically look at yourself, and that's one of the hardest things anybody can do. Is critically say, well, are you really good at that, or you just think you're good at that? And critically then look at your business. But you have to fix yourself. I was a terrible leader. Actually, when I went back after the first time, I said that to my whole staff. I apologized to them for being a terrible leader. I realized I was not very good at being a leader.
Do they help you, excuse me for interrupting,
Yeah.
do they help you comprehend what a true leader looks like, what the responsibilities, the opportunities, the obligations, and the role is?
100%. I mean, one of the things that Mike really focuses on is getting everyone in that room to be better leaders. And he's now got the leadership program, a special course, which I'm going to be taking in April. But he constantly, whether you know it or not,
Yes.
that's what he's focusing on. Now that I've been in it for 3 years, I realize some of the things that he does, and you start to think about, why is he doing this? And it's really to get yourself to be a better leader, to get yourself dancing and yelling and screaming. You just got to be comfortable doing different things and uncomfortable things. And
Breaking out.
As a leader, you got to be uncomfortable all the time.
That's well stated. Do you think that leadership is lacking in most small, medium-sized service businesses?
100%. Yeah.
And
That's why they're small and medium-sized.
And when you grasp it, and when you instill and install true understanding of what a masterful leader looks like, acts like, thinks like, leads like, and you start doing it, what do you see happen in your business?
Well, I think you see the results improve immediately.
And-
People want to be there, and they want to work there. Your turnover, I mean, our turnovers, we used to turn over people all the time, and it wasn't, I mean, we're a tough industry to hire into. I mean,
Sure.
They deal with waste all the time, right?
Yeah.
Our turnovers cut right down to, I don't want to say nothing, but it's really a lot. It's probably, if we used to turn over 10 people in a year, we turn over 2.
Wow.
So.
And what about I'm going to use the word esprit de corps, but about the culture, the work ethic, the collaboration, because that's always, in a small business, it's a breakdown that keeps companies from growing.
100%. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that we've changed as culture. Is our culture perfect? No, but I think back to 3 years ago, our culture was terrible. I didn't want to admit it then. I will 100% admit it now. Our culture was very bad. We were almost unionized twice, and to me, when you're almost unionized twice, that's that speaks to you have a bad culture.
Yes.
So
what did you learn to do different, if you can share one or two little golden nuggets?
Well, one of the things that we never did very well is communicate with our staff. Tell them where you're going. Tell them what targets are. What is the company going to do? Like, it's simple stuff. You think well, I've done that, but you really haven't.
And
We
when
have
you do, what
regular
happens?
meetings.
What happens?
Well, it's amazing when people go, oh, that's what I do. Like, it's woken. People are working towards a common goal now. It's amazing how they almost self-police each other too.
Yes.
It's we've kind of put that. And that just happened. We didn't say, self-police, but a great culture works that way. And when somebody's not fitting in the culture, they don't survive. And it's amazing because one of my managers interviewed a driver. First thing he said, I said, how did it go? First thing he said, not a culture fit. So that's how we think now. It's not, the guy might be the best driver in the world, not a culture fit. Doesn't make the cut.
And so how does the team, now it's a team.
Team, yeah.
Probably wasn't a team
No,
before.
we have a management team of 5 of us. So
But they probably work as a unified team now,
yeah,
don't they?
yeah,
And
absolutely.
they see themselves as on a sort of on a mission, a crusade together.
100%, yeah. And they all call each other out too when things break down. So it's,
And they respect each other.
yeah, they respect each other. We are all working for a common goal.
Are you enjoying it?
I love it now. Like, I really, really enjoy working, and the thing I really am liking is getting my managers better and people better. I tell this in front of all my staff. When you come to this company, I want you better off when you leave than when you got here. That's our goal.
No, I love that. But in terms of growth,
Okay.
it sounds like, and I'm not trying to put words into your mouth, so take me to task. It sounds like if I am to, I guess, distill what I heard, you grew as a leader, you grew understanding how to extricate yourself from the day to day so that you could really look at the big picture, see the opportunities, see the gaps, really see the picture in the greatest, I guess I'd call it CAT scan perspective,
Yep.
seize the opportunities, change those areas that needed, and focus on qualitative growth in behalf of everybody, and bring them all on the journey with you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so if that's obviously the payoff besides satisfaction, fulfillment, freer time, more predictability, business working harder for you, is you are probably earning more money too.
Yes.
And if we go back to reasons why, because I believe reasons why are fundamental for people to start with in terms of why they should either do something or not do something, choose someone or a path or not. If you were to nobly, not to help Mike or Rob, but to help a deserving, quality, growth-minded, but stymied, stuck service entrepreneur, experience and appreciate what CEO Warrior was, what would you say? How would you describe it? What would you tell them it represents? Why would you tell them to do it? Any of those, all of them, any other way you can do it? Because I'm trying to get your perspective without putting words in your mouth.
Well, I was one of those stuck entrepreneurs, and one of the problems when you're stuck is it creates a whole bunch of negative energy, not only at your business, but that feeds over to home.
Yes.
And when you're negative at home, your wife, your kids, it can lead to problems in your whole life. And a lot of entrepreneurs that fail, their marriages probably fail, and their relationship with their kids fail. I would say if you have problems, you have to do something about it. So one of the things about CEO Warrior is it's about taking action. And I think I took action, and I still need to be better at it and improve at it. But one of the things you can do is come to, whether it's CEO Warrior or some other organization, to get yourself unstuck, because if you don't do anything, you'll continue to be unstuck, you'll be broke, you'll have terrible relationships. And I think CEO Warrior opens your eyes to your whole body of being. So it's not just your business, it's you, it's your relationships with your friends, family, kids. And I think it's that whole circle that they put it all together nicely and makes you just a happier life. Well, we'll call it wealthier, not just from a financial
Yes.
point of view, just
That's great.
everything.
And you've met some really wonderful people here who
Yeah.
have really been liberated, and
Yeah.
and they have grown, and you can see the passion, the dynamism, the enthusiasm, the collaboration. It's pretty. I mean, when I'm here, I get very impacted by the electricity in the room.
If I can tell you right now, I've seen you multiple times here. If you didn't, you wouldn't come back.
Yes.
Like you can tell when somebody likes something. I can tell you like it.
I
Like,
enjoy.
you don't have to do any of this, but I know you love it, and you feed off the energy that is in the room.
Yeah, they're very impressive, and you can tell that they're embracing a whole different game.
People want to be here. Like I say, I'm taking time away from my family, my friends, my business, but I want to be here because I know it's going to be a greater good when I go home.
When you leave, just curiously, and I wonder what your process is, you get on an airplane,
Yep.
obviously.
Yep.
Do you immediately start thinking about the business, or do you reflect on what transpired? What is your process?
You know what? I'm after 3 or 4 days, I'm usually very tired. I actually usually put it away for a day, and then when I get home, I usually bring it out and start to, like, I think subconsciously I'm noodling through ideas.
Okay.
Once in a while on the airplane, I will make a list of the things I want to do, and you generally
prioritize them.
prioritize them, absolutely. And am I going to get everything done? Probably not. But it's just things that I've reminded myself, and I may have it multiple times I've been here, that same on the list, I just haven't got to it.
Got it.
But that's sort of my process. I usually review all the notes. I'm a big note taker. I review them all.
And that alone is remarkable, because most people never review their notes.
Yeah, I know.
And
it's-
when they do, the notes they've taken, they don't know what they mean.
You're tough to keep up with, I will say that.
That's
my
why-
my notes with you are very hard.
Well, I don't know if I should say thank you or I apologize, but that's why I tell everyone to record me.
Yes.
So this time, is there one takeaway already that you have that's pounding in your mind, that's exciting, that you took to a clear understanding or a higher level this time?
I'm gonna pump your tires here, because one of the things that you said the other day, I've never really heard it mentioned, and you talked about yield, which I've heard before, wealth investor, but the thing you said that struck me the most is, think of your company as a mutual fund and whether you would invest in it or not. And I'm like, wow, that is a really interesting.
It's an
way
interesting
to,
perspective.
I love that. So, you know, what I have a lot of investments outside of my business to diversify, like you say, and say, well, would I look at my business and invest in it? And that was a very interesting thought. So I've never thought like that. Like it's the wealth perspective. It's just the next step. So that's something that has certainly stuck in my mind.
That's great. Well, thank you. And it's a very profound concept that I wish I could say was original. But when you look at your business that way, you don't tolerate inefficiency. You don't tolerate
Yeah.
unnecessary risk. You don't tolerate low yield unless it has strategic value.
Yep.
And you know if it does or not, and you re-evaluate, and you, it's the right word, you ascribe to everything you do a meaningful, sort of a benchmark of a performance expectation.
Well, the other thing too is, would somebody else invest in it, like
Yeah.
a mutual fund? Like, never mind me, you got
Yeah.
emotional ties to
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Would somebody else
Yeah.
look at it and go, as a mutual fund and invest?
And
That would be the real key,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, it's good. That's exactly right. Well, that's great. I don't want to keep you longer than I intended, but you're very impressive. And,
Thank you.
And you're very articulate, and you come at it from a very unique sense. Have you found that the people who you associate with here are a different breed? and were they a different breed coming in, or you think they've become a different breed because what was latent got released?
Well, I think a bit of both. I think if you're making the step to come here, you're already a different breed than most business owners, because I think you are willing to take the risk and take the next step of improvement. And then once you're here, Mike and his team are really good at taking you to that next level, and they feel like a failure if they don't take you to the next level. So I think that's something you recognize in people, and not everyone goes at the same level, but they're really good at trying to get the best out of every person they have.
And I can tell, and this is very, very inspiring to me. I've interviewed their advisors, and they're just dedicated as can be, and they're
Unbelievable.
they're having such a great time celebrating the successes of their clients. But I didn't even realize that Rob worked privately with everybody, needs them on financing, on understanding the numbers.
Yeah.
It's a really unique organization.
I get along well with Rob because I got the
Yeah,
numbers
yeah, yeah,
background,
yeah.
but yeah, no, he was helping me the other day. I had a private call with him, and he emailed me some sheets. I sent him some spreadsheets. He looked at them. He said, and so I'm helping test some spreadsheets because I just have that analytical mind. So
I think the biggest problem that business owners they misperceive, it's a terrible, terrible, painful, not a delusion, but a misassumption, is they're supposed to go it alone and be an island. And that's
100%.
that's the saddest, hardest. I mean, it presupposes that you're omnipotent,
Yeah.
that you're supposed to have all this knowledge, all this understanding, all this ability to perceive, to navigate, to lead, to guide, to decide. And I don't know anyone who singularly has all that. Do you?
no, and one of the things, actually, this reminded me of a story. One of the reasons I actually started looking for a business is when I was at the bank and I dealt with business owners and I looked at their financial information, I realized some of them really aren't that smart.
No.
Like they got into business maybe backwards or however they
Yeah.
did. I'm like, I'm way smarter than this. And I don't say that to be
No,
gloating.
and you understood.
It recognized like I can do this is what it said to me. So I did it.
And the numbers can be leveraged up so much if you see. I mean, I always said the data talks. It tells you what to do, what not to do, where the opportunities are,
Yep.
where the dangers lie. But most people don't know how to read them or how to interpret them.
Yeah,
Well,
for
what
sure.
a pleasure. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you, Jay. Really appreciate the call.